These are some of the mementos from the service itself. The folded flag and the casings from the 21-gun salute.
World War II Coast Guard veteran Joseph DeFelice was laid to rest with military funeral honors at Arlington National Cemetery in 2016. His daughter, Donna DeFelice, knows the hallowed grounds of Arlington are almost full, with little room for new graves. So, she supports keeping Arlington accessible to honor other service members.
Our freedoms that we take for granted, they've defended those, and they deserve this level of care.
Over 400,000 service members from the Revolutionary War to today's conflicts are interred at the cemetery. Since 1864, when the first military burial was conducted, the site, which overlooks the Pentagon and nation's capital, has undergone 6 expansions. The 7th is underway in the cemetery's southern part. The cost, $420 million, but that could rise.
This expansion will add an additional 80,000 burial opportunities, split about 3 different ways. 1/3 will be traditional casketed in-ground remains, 1/3 will be cremated in-ground remains, and 1/3 will be above-ground cremated remains.
Even with the expansion, Arlington will hit capacity in the 2060s. With 2 million living armed forces members and vets, the tightening of eligibility is under review. Those killed in action, former prisoners of war, and service members with the Silver Star and above would be among the few qualifying for below-ground interments. Of course, Arlington isn't the only option, says Mark Belinsky of the Military Officers Association of America.
The National Cemetery Agency runs 155 VA-run cemeteries, so they could continue to administer those while the military would transition its ceremonial troops to performing that duty at an already existing and operational national cemetery.
There's another option emerging, rethinking conventional burial practices, says Edward Bixby, an eco-burial expert.
You do not have to embalm the individual, so you don't have to introduce any kind of possible toxic substances into the body or to the water system in the future. They would be placed in something biodegradable, like a biodegradable pine box or a muslin shroud. They would be placed directly in the earth without an outer burial container, so no carbon footprint from the carbon or from the concrete creation.
Arlington National Cemetery told VOA it complies with all environmental standards within its grounds and in the construction. But there's already a growing national push for eco-friendly alternatives to conventional burial. California, for instance, is the latest state to legalize, quote, human composting. Green burials, in which cremated remains are placed in biodegradable urns or directly in the ground, are already available at Arlington, but the practice hasn't been promoted.
The most recent burial was in 2013, I do believe, but there are currently 4 remains that are in Section 27 in this green burial section. If the demand were to increase, there's certainly space to do that.
The Department of Veteran Affairs has set aside sections at 3 of its newest cemeteries for green burials, but congressional approval is pending.
In many cases, there is minimal to no marking wherever a green burial does exist. And we do have a requirement to ensure that every grave site is properly marked and can be identified. So we are working to obtain those authorities.
Donna DeFelice believes honoring U.S. soldiers can be environmentally sound. Veterans themselves, she says, might have to spark that change.
The more it's requested, the more it becomes ingrained as an option.
Until then, up to 30 conventional funerals will be held daily at Arlington National Cemetery. Expansion work is expected to continue until early 2028. Veronica Balderas Iglesias for VOA News, Arlington National Cemetery.